Brace yourselves, the end times are upon us. It's time for our year in review of everything comics in 2020, and my God, it was a lot. It's all happening right now on PREVIEWSworld Weekly.
What's up, PREVIEWSworld? It's Wednesday. It's New Comic Book Day, which means it's time for PREVIEWSworld Weekly, and it is actually the end of the year. At least when you're seeing this, this is the end of the year. This is a little pre-recorded, just give away a little secret. But we got some special guests joining Ashton and I. So, of course, first of all, I'm Troy Jeffrey Allen. It's your first time watching the episode.
I am Ashton Greenwood, aka the Duchess of Free Comic Book Day, and if you haven't heard, got to get this in early. Free Comic Book Day is happening in 2021, a little later than usual. It'll be August 14th at your local comic shop.
There you go. Absolutely. So again, welcome to the big year-end episode. Goes without saying that this was a long, strange year. If you've discovered this video in a time capsule in the far future, we are referring to 2020. If there is no future if there is no future for us after 2021,
it just all ends at midnight. That's it.
It all ends at midnight. You know, it'd be awful if it was like a Groundhog Day situation and we just reset to January 1st.
How dare you?
Yeah, I guess. But if that does happen, no one will see this, I guess. So let's see what happens. Let's go crazy. But this is the year that was. It wasn't all bad, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, all right. It wasn't all bad. I mean, there were some awful things that happened. We lost a lot of people this year, right? There was a disruption in the industry. But you know what? We're moving out of it, and we're going to look forward, and we're going to try to pretend that it wasn't awful. So how about I bring on a couple of people with me, and they join us and help us pretend that 2020 wasn't the worst year ever. All right. Up first, Jillian Carter of Kamikaze, a comic shop in Massachusetts. What's up, Jillian?
Hi, everyone. Hi. How's everyone doing? Pretty good.
Doing all right. Can you tell us a little bit about Kamikaze real quick?
Yeah, Kamikaze is a comic store in Somerville, Massachusetts. We're right in the heart of Davis Square. We sell like new comics and graphic novels. We have toys, games, back issues, and yeah, we've been hanging in there this year. It's been kind of difficult. I have a just stellar team of dedicated people working to keep it running, and right now I'm hiding from all of the holiday shoppers. Walking around above my head right now, so taking a little bit of a breather.
All right, so you really are. Just to be clear, this is not how Kamikaze looks. Like this is like,
I'm in the basement. I'm in a little like alcove of like eBay and collectibles storage. So I'm hidden away right now. So
all right. Well, thank you for joining us, Jillian, very much, and thank you for coming back because we had Jillian on the show a few months ago. Yeah, and absolutely. Also joining us this week, I will call him Joaquin on occasion, but you possibly know him as Mystical Green Beanie. He has a YouTube channel. He talks about comics and television and movies. What's up, Joaquin? How's it going, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Can you tell us a little bit about your channel real quick? We just had you on last week. You just did this, but the week before. But can you tell us a little bit about Mystical Green Beanie and what's that all about?
I don't mind plugging myself for the internet.
I don't like that. Whatever you just did, it was awful.
You know me well enough. I talked about comics, video games, TV, movies. I fashioned myself as your favorite pseudo-intellectual on the internet. And just a good old-fashioned, talking about comics and being a nerd.
There you go. And also, I got to shout out Alliance Comics and Games, which is my old school alma mater, which Joaquin works at now. And you can come if you're in the Maryland, Montgomery County area, stop by and bug him on Sundays because that's when he works. That's what I do. So there you go. And also joining us this week is Eli Schwab. He's the administrator of Facebook's Cartoonist Kayfabe Facebook page, and he's also the publisher of Cosmic Lion. What's going on, Eli?
Not much. How's it going? Such great books as 2020's Wizard, the comics magazine.
Absolutely.
Just doing well. Podcasting as always. I got 3 podcasts: comic-based, Grendel-based, hip-hop-based.
Grendel-based, okay.
And just constantly working, editing, trying to further my comics work, getting some pages done back behind me there on the old drawing board.
All right.
Busy.
All right. And you also appear in comic books, apparently. I have to point this out because you posted this in the Facebook group. If Johnny could like throw up the Mike Allred drawing. So what is the story behind this? Like, you met Mike Allred and he was like, I'm putting you in a comic? Like, what's going on here?
He was like, "You are the coolest looking human being that I've ever seen in my life." No. I did interview him back in the day for my podcast, Cosmic Lion Radio. But for this one, it was really a fundraising effort with Han Allred for his film Space, which is kind of coming out next year. And so it was through the Kickstarter that I got to that point. The way you get to all great things. Cash money.
Cash money. There you go. All right. Well, I still thought it was pretty cool. And I saw it. I was like, man, he actually nailed it.
Yeah, it could have just been a panel. It could have been a little thing, but he gave me 3 panels and a line. So if it was a film, I would have got paid,
There you go. Exactly. There you go.
You are an amazing looking human.
So you guys might be wondering, some people might be wondering if they're watching this, why are these people selected? Well, that's because we like them and they were great on the show in the past. They joined us on Previous World Weekly and like previous episodes. They seem to have some great knowledge to provide and definitely jumped in the conversation. And also truthfully helped us out, our show out, during some struggles because we used to do this in the studio. Ashton and I used to be less than probably 6 feet apart, right?
Yeah.
And the mandated 6 feet apart, and then it all shut down. So these people joined us over the year. So we figured for the best of 2020 episode, we might as well have our best guest. That's how I see it.
Agreed.
So we're going to go down the line here. We're going to talk about our favorite manga, our favorite comic book of the year, our favorite hero, our favorite villain, favorite artist of the year, favorite writer of the year, favorite breakout comic story of the year, favorite breakout comic of the year, favorite comic news story of the year. So I'm just going to start. We're just going to go around the clock, and I'm going to start with Joaquin. I'm going to start at the bottom here. So Joaquin, let's start with hero. Who was the hero of the year in comics in 2020?
Hero of the year. Okay. I'm gonna be super basic and say Daredevil.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just been hero stretching it. That was extremely self-destructive, and the current run on that series is really taking full advantage of the fact that Matt Murdock is a deeply, deeply flawed person, but he's flawed in like a noble way, but he's as noble as he is selfish. So even when he's doing the right thing, he's doing it for the wrong reasons, but it's still the right thing, kind of. But yeah, no. So far he's been like an upstanding hero. For those of you who don't know, who aren't reading the current book, spoiler alert: Daredevil killed a guy on accident, and he's now trying to make up for that by, doing the whole Catholic guilt thing and going to jail. That's kind of like the big thing with this run. Like, yeah, he puts himself on trial. It's great. And I don't know, it's something about that's like weirdly noble because not a lot of heroes do that.
Accountability.
Huh?
Accountability.
Yeah. It's like I killed somebody. Oh well, hurt. Yeah.
That's actually doubly funny because I just finished 3 Jokers, and not to give anything away, but yeah, the way Jason Todd goes about things is like interesting. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're totally right. Yeah, no, that was something that was like really kind of interesting, like an interesting take on that character. So yeah, I'd say that's why Matt's like the hero of the year for me.
All right, cool. What about you, Jillian? Who do you have for hero of the year?
I said Zoe from 5 Years, and that is 5 Years is by Terry Moore, and it's kind of this bringing together of all of the different series titles, like this whole universe that Terry Moore has written over the years. And as you can see, there are like a lot of like very cool, weird women that I could have chosen as my hero, but I picked Zoe, the little guy in front. I mean, I love Kachu, I love everybody, but Zoe is a straight killer, and you wouldn't want to encounter her like on a dark street. I like her ruthlessness. I like her weird, dark humor, and her manipulation. She's kind of a villain, I guess, but she's on our side. So I don't know. I love that whole bring together of all of those like series into one kind of like doomsday like prevention scenario.
Okay.
Thought it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I didn't realize that was like the whole setup for it. It's like he's just going classic, like if you have a team update, world has to end. Is that the type of situation?
I guess so.
That's actually pretty cool. Now I know a lot of people love the abstract studio stuff. A lot of people love the Terry Moore stuff. So that's actually really cool that you chose that one. What about you, Eli? Who's your hero of the year?
I'm going with another person who, wasn't always a hero, but now is kind of. I'm talking Venom. Venom's like the way that they've been developing this story this year and last year has been insane. The introduction of the King in Black, Null, and then also like he was just like a bad dude in like a living alien suit, but now it's like the suit is the embodiment of the darkness, and Null has become like this huge villain, and all this stuff has developed in his son, and they thought they were Clintars, but that was really just the alien word for prison, and this is like they're trapped on a planet, and then Silver Surfer Black, and all this stuff that became like what we thought we knew, which was like what the Beyonder just gave Spidey a suit during Secret Wars, and now it's like this huge, intense, like hundreds of millions of years of history through these like this insane alien race. And so like when I say Venom, I don't even just mean Eddie Brock. I mean like the combination of these two and everything that goes with it in these Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman work. And Donny Cates' writing is like blowing me away. So Venom, like hero's journey is insane.
You sound like you're narrating a trailer.
I always try to do that in a world.
In a world. I love it. So like I've heard a lot of people say like it's kind of like a cosmic horror thing. I'm super behind. I stopped at Silver Surfer Black, not because I wanted to necessarily. I just couldn't follow up. Has it? I know. I also I have some resistance towards Venom as a character too. That's a whole nother thing. But like, is it a cosmic horror thing that Donny Cates is going for? This like epic, like it gets so huge.
Yeah, I would definitely say, man. I mean, you got symbiote dragons like descending on Earth. You got in the last Venom issue, I won't spoil it, but Eddie Brock is just falling through the sky to his death. Like the entire issue. Like it's like there's so much going on, and like I said, the like darkness is alive now to like wreak havoc on the universe. So I would say, cosmic horror is definitely a good descriptor.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love it. All right, Ashton, what about you? What do you got in the holster for us?
All right, so technically my pick is not a book that came out in 2020, and my hero has been around for a while, but it was something that I consumed a lot of in 2020, so I warped the question to suit my needs. So I picked Prince Zuko, Fire Lord Zuko, whatever you want to call him, from Avatar, The Last Airbender, and honed in specifically on the search where he sets out to find his mother. And it's interesting that Eli also pointed out, or I should say picked a hero that didn't start as a hero and wasn't always. But like I've said 1,000 times, I think Prince Zuko's redemption arc is the gold standard for how to do it. And he becomes so self-fulfilled and so compassionate. And he really does like a complete 180 from where he started. That I feel like I couldn't have picked anybody else. And I mean, I spent my entire 2020 watching Avatar like 4 or 5 times and reading comics and reading fan fiction. So,
oh no, not the fan fiction too, Ashton. You've gone too far. You're in too deep.
Yeah, I am, and I don't feel bad about it.
No, keep going. There's nothing wrong with fan fiction.
Ashton's the girl of culture. Don't worry, it's all good.
I support you. I love this
Thank
for you.
for you. No, Ashton. No, I give Ashton a hard time about fan fiction all the time, but mostly just because I find it amusing. So,
fan fiction before?
Have I ever read fan fiction before?
Like you've never written fan fiction before?
Yeah, I mean, I have, and actually, I was embarrassed that I did. I did a whole. I did a whole thing on Rotten Tomatoes. It was not great. We're just gonna on the Rotten
Do you have
Tomatoes.
a secret Wattpad account?
No, God, no. Those days are long over. I hung that up a long time ago. But there was definitely they should have wrote Phantom Menace this way thread, or probably buried somewhere in the Rotten Tomatoes forum that I hope never ever sees the light of day again. So my pick.
Julian's like Googling, what would your username be?
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. It needs to die with the rest of the old internet.
Nothing dies on the internet.
I know. Oh God, I'm sure it's somewhere. My hero for 2020 actually is Apocalypse from the X-Men. So like the big thing here is like X of Swords happened. That was a thing, right? Ten of Swords happened. That was a thing. And the focal point, I was happy to find out, ended up being Apocalypse. And it's been something I've been wanting from Jonathan Hickman for a while, which is this origin story for him. Like in Shield Architects of Forever by Hickman, he introduced this idea that was just really like a little like brief little tidbit in the story where Apocalypse takes on the Brood alongside Imhotep in ancient Egypt, and they basically are thrashing these alien hordes like back and forth. And like ever since I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I want this comic. This is the comic I want. And then turns out that Ten of Swords gave us that, at least a segue into that direction. And so what you get is like you get a story about, first of all, why he believes in survival of the fittest, what he knows, what he's seen, and like especially as like the oldest mutant around, which I hear is about to change in the pages of Avengers. We'll find out about that later. But yeah, this is it. This is everything I kind of wanted from this character, and it was the highlight of Ten of Swords. Ten of Swords, kind of a mixed bag. I'm not going to sit here and say that it wasn't, but that was definitely the highlight of meeting his family, meeting his wife, meeting his children, finding out what separated them. And they kind of took him off the board at the very end of the story, which was unfortunate, but we know that they are not done with him. So yeah, Apocalypse, surprisingly enough, turned out to be the hero of 2020 for me. I'm all about what Hickman's doing with him. So definitely. All right. Let's move on to the bad guys. How about that, y'all?
I do love a good bad guy.
You do love a good bad guy. Everybody loves a good bad guy. That's just how it works, right? Like, we don't want to admit it, but we like the villains just as much as the hero sometimes. Sometimes people like them even more.
So, can't have the hero without the villain, though.
You can't, right? You cannot. It just doesn't work that way. So, Jillian, I'm going to let you go first. Who is your villain of 2020?
You said me?
Yes.
You know what? Like, in most of the books that I read, like, the villain is, existence or like alcoholism or depression or something. So it was hard for me to decide. I said Dr. Donald Blake in this latest issue of Thor, mostly because I like his look. He looks like a raggedy ass wizard. He's he's like an alter ego, like made manifest, like unleashed on the world, and the weapon of choice of the like scalpel, this like it's so menacing, like it's small, it's not like a big old hammer, it's not like lasers shot out of hands, it's I think it's utterly like threatening and precise, and I find that chilling. So I think that's like that kind of weapon in the hands of an insane person who just like lost complete touch, like very little like grounded to reality. I think that's terrifying, and that's why I chose him.
Yeah. No, actually, I didn't know that was the big twist, because I mean, just looking at the cover, that's another book that kind of fell to the wayside with Thor. And for those of you keeping count, that's 2 times Donnie Cates has popped up on this show. So I think he might be on a roll right now. But like, yeah, I had no idea that was Donald Blake. So damn it, Jillian, you're gonna make me pick this book up, man.
I'm sad.
I'm super intrigued. What about you, Joaquin? What do you got for villain of the year?
Villain of the year. So it's kind of funny. I know, like, especially on my channel, and especially when I'm talking to you, Troy, I've not been super generous in regards to a lot of the more crazy cosmic stuff with Scott Snyder has been doing with certain characters, specifically Batman. But I'm gonna say the Batman Who Laughs is my villain of the year. It's funny because I remember reading Dark Knight's Metal, and I was like, Batman Who Laughs, all right, it's cool. And then he got like a solo series, and I was like, okay, really dragging this one out. And then he was in like, the Batman Superman book, and I was like, okay, you're really dragging this one out. Please wrap it up.
Mhm.
But after reading all the stuff with death metal and whatnot, and really kind of getting a feel for what Scott Snyder was doing with that character, I like him a lot. He's a fun, it's fun like meta commentary on like the nihilism that sometimes grips comics readers when we feel jaded about certain characters and stories and these universes, and I think it's really good.
Huh.
I like it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, interesting. All right. See, I was one of those people too. He was like a surface character for me, and I was like, Psh, I'm not interested. But that's actually really interesting that there's more of a meta commentary there. I'm with it. I can't help it. I fanboy. I'm guilty of it just as much as
you gotta
anybody.
look into that deep, dark, truthful mirror and see
There you
the
go.
nihilism.
Oh, boy.
There you go. I got the beard. It's not at my neck yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
The abyss. Don't blink.
All right, Ashton, what about you? Who made your list for villain of the year?
So I picked Negan. I love Negan. I've talked about him a number of times on the show, and I've always kind of maintained that Negan is the hero of his own storyline, and I still feel that way. I do. Because I mean, when you compare him, he's kind of a mirror image of Rick. Rick has done a lot of like unnecessary murder. So, but in this case, I'm going to keep him as a villain. And I mean, ultimately, he is our villain. We're following Rick's storyline. And I thought Negan Lives was really cool because, like, Kirkman kind of played with this idea of, like, him being a would-be good guy and, like, maybe setting up a storyline that would take him there, and then capped it at that and was like, nope, this is a one-shot. That's the end of that. So I thought that was really cool that it was, like, it almost took it that extra step. It was like, nope, we're just going to, like, keep it here, keep him as a villain. And I thought that was really fun. And I also need to shout out that this particular Negan Lives issue was, it supported the Back the Comeback campaign. You can see the logo in the top corner, which was like an effort to raise money to help local comic shops get back on their feet after various closures and restrictions. So that was a really good job on behalf of Image to help out there.
Yeah. No. Shout out for Kirkman for dropping that and at a key time too. That was actually really cool of him. Eli, what about you? Who's your villain of the year?
Well, just again, because we were following it so much on my other podcast, Can I Thwip It? I got to go with Null. I mean, because Venom was like my hero. No, look at that dude. He's so menacing. Again, he is like always been around. He was like trapped inside a planet for like millions of years. He brought back Carnage from the dead. He like reincarnated like a half a body of Carnage to like come back and rage and Carnage. In Absolute Carnage. And then like, the fact that Donny Cates like took out this like 1 or 2 panels from Thor God of Thunder #6 to like generate this like character that later comes in to like be insane. And like just the amount of like havoc that he's bringing down on the Marvel universe right now. The fact that all like, Cap, Wolverine, all these characters who had the codexes in them had a symbiote on them before, they're now like completely drowned in a sea of on the podcast we call them nulled out symbos because like all the symbiotes like get like all crazy and they're all like they got the spiralized nulled out symbos. It goes off the tongue so well. So like and now all the nulled out symbos are like raging against everything. We got symbiote dragons, we got symbiote Tyrannosaurus Rexes going on. It's just like the amount of havoc that he's caused in these Venom, these Carnage, these Spidey books. When the nulled out Symbo got on Miles Morales, like, dude, that was like a whole crazy thing in Absolute Carnage. Like, so much havoc has been wrought by him this year that got to be my villain of the year. So much fun, man.
Absolutely, I love it. No, King in Black and all the things leading up to it has been easily, I think, the most talked about thing most talked about book in comics this year. So,
and it's been great.
I want
and a new one today that I haven't even got into. Sorry, dude. Sorry.
I want nulled out Symbo to be like a definitive term in the next hardcover. That needs to be it.
I think so too. Donny Cates, you listening?
Nulled out Symbo. I'm gonna just work that into conversations now. Like, it doesn't even have to make sense.
Yeah. Shout out Manus on that. He thought of that.
Okay, all right, I'm with it. Right. Did I forget somebody? Did I forget someone, or am I
yourself?
Okay, myself. All right, I knew I forgot someone. My bad. So my villain for the year is actually the X-Men. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Specifically the Council of Krakoa. So there's been all this back and forth lately of look, I'm gonna put it like this: dumb people are going
boy.
around saying that ever since Hickman took over, the X-Men have started acting like villains, right? And here's my thing: like, this is good for the X-Men. This is what Hickman does. If you've read his Avengers books, if you read Secret War, if you even read his stuff like Manhattan Projects, he doesn't tell straight superhero stories. He does sci-fi and demands that the characters reevaluate good and evil. And yeah, so like in Tennis Wars, we kind of see some of that coming to a head with the council deciding against a decision that Cyclops makes, and Cyclops has to go out on his own. And this was inevitable. Like, you know, I feel like everything was outlined in the comics for this, especially when we saw how particularly the council treated Mystique and Destiny earlier in the series, and don't think that's not coming back around. I'm looking forward to that as much as I am the Apocalypse thing. But like, yeah, and so like it all kind of came to a head, and it did exactly what I kind of expected Hickman to do, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I wanted to see him get into the complications of things, and we saw even Chip Zdarsky got involved with this with his X-Men Fantastic Four crossover, where they tried to court Franklin Richards and pull him away from his family because technically, I guess he was a mutant. So I don't know what's going on in some of the other books right now, but like in the Fantastic Four book right now. But at the time, he was a mutant, yeah, so like now it's kind of like interesting to kind of see the X-Men in a situation where is the Council of Krakoa doing villainous things? Yes, kinda. Are they good guys? Yeah, kinda. Are they justifying their actions? Yeah, an argument can be made for all that. So I think that's a compelling story. And I think it was Jillian who was saying earlier that you know, like the something about the good guys, you know, getting to the complications of like, you know, good and evil. And I'm a big fan of that as well. Like, I think that great stories come out of that. And this is exactly what you should be doing with superheroes. You should unpack that stuff. So absolutely. All right, artist time. I'm actually going to go first on this one just because I just want to make a short point real quick. For my pick. So artist of the year for me, I like there was actually a lot of great art this year in comics. It was nice to see some of the big two taking it a little bit more seriously than they have in the last couple of years, I kind of feel. But on top of that, I got to give credit to Boom, who I feel like every book they put out is phenomenal art. But on top of that, if I had to pick one, I got to say Jason Fabok on Three Jokers. I feel like clean, solid line work is super underrated in comics. I know a lot of people prefer the flashy, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm guilty of oohing and ahhing at, like, you know, J.H. Williams or even stuff like Todd McFarlane and whatnot. You know, I'm guilty of that too. But when you have a solid artist, and when I say solid, I mean guys like George Perez or Gary Frank or Phil Jimenez, like someone who just draws like the characters as you see them all the time and like iconically in your memory, you know, and also can just allow the characters to act. That's actually a great joy for me when I'm reading a comic book. It's the art's not like, you know, getting in the way of the story, or the story's not getting in the way of the art. It's kind of like melding perfectly. And Fabok, he's not new, but damn, he's good. And he just nails so much, especially in these 9-panel grids that Jeff Johns seems to love so much throughout Three Jokers. Like the amount of detail he gets in those little rectangles, you know, is actually pretty impressive. So yeah, Jason Fabok's my pick. So now let's go around the circle. I'm actually going to start with you, Ashton. Who is your artist of 2020?
So I actually don't have a particular artist, and I don't think that I'm a good definitive source for this, and I'm going to leave it to you guys, because when I pick books, I don't have a tendency to pick by creator or artist. I'm more of a story-driven person, so pass, I guess. I know that's a crappy answer, but
what?
like I like I just said, I don't pick by artist. I mean, like if you want to force me into a corner, like I would say Alice Oseman, because I love her Heartstopper series, and I thought the art was so adorable, but it's not a driving force for how I select my stories.
Okay, interesting. All right, that's a different answer. I would not have expected that. What about Jillian? You're nodding your head. Are you in the same boat, or you just respect that answer?
I think that's a good answer. I think even just like choosing an artist of the year based on like one book, I think is still a pretty like valid way to. I don't know. Like I think that the art in Heartstopper, I think really like, it fits the mood for the story. I think it does. It's doing a lot of work. It's an art medium as much as it is a written and constructed, edited, like laid out. It's a book in your hands. I think that's the answer.
Okay, all right.
Am I doing my pick now?
Yeah. Let's hear your artist of the year.
I just said Junji Ito, and that seems like an easy one, but I think he's a living master.
Yeah.
And he's had like a couple of releases. Every time a new book comes out, it is a huge deal. They're beautiful. Like Remina just came out.
Yep.
In a new like printing. So I don't know. It's more accessible than ever before, and that Art of Junji Ito book came out, which is like this huge hardcover, just really showcasing his style, and I don't know. It overtakes you. I think it's very arresting. It's the kind of stuff that you would see in a museum, and it moves tears. It moves me tears. How good it is.
All right, yeah, and he did just dropped I think it's like the first book he released in English or something like that. But Viz dropped it last week, so
yeah, that was Remina, and then Venus in the Blind Spot, which had some adaptation of some stories like I read back in college. So it's just really interesting things like that come around in your life. Just some the human chair story. I forget what that one's called. But yeah, it's they're chilling, and it's so
freaky.
distinct.
No, they're very freaky. They're very freaky for sure. What about you, Eli?
Well, I made such a stance last time I was on the show that art is more
I
important
know.
than the story.
And then I sat here and was
my
like,
God.
art's not important to how I tell
Yes,
stories.
but I love both so very much, but it's just always been that way. And I think the first one that was like that for me was Joe Madureira's art on Uncanny X-Men. Like there was a point where my dreams were drawn by Joe Madureira, and it was like I was so into it, But for me this year, it's my favorite book of the year, but it's also my favorite art of the year. Mike Huddleston with his work on Decorum. Like this book blows my mind. I think for the first 4 issues, I was like, I have no clue what is even happening in this book. Again, it's Hickman. Hickman is having a crazy good year too. So the more though I read, and it's another one of those things where it's like, might be better to get them all and read them all together, or get the trade and read them all at once, because it really builds. But I've been going back and I've been doing it, and the more I see of Mike Huddleston's art, and I've known about him for a long time. He's a good friend of my favorite artist, Jim Mahfood. They went to art school together. They worked together a lot back in the day. I met Mike at an art jam of Mahfood one time, and he's just an amazing dude that I've been following for a long time, and whose art continues to blow minds. If you haven't seen his work on Decorum, it's just within one book he does so many styles. I'll just show you this spread right here. Yeah, I got all my books here. So there's so much art style going on one page: black and white, full color, painting, sketching. The amount of beautiful vision that he crams into these pages on Decorum, blowing my mind all year. So Mike Huddleston, shout out to everything you've been doing, because it's been insane.
Awesome. Yeah, no, the cover for Decorum alone are attention grabbers. So I automatically. What about you, Joaquin? What is your artist of the year?
Artist of the year. That one's kind of hard. Mainly because this is the year that I've really started to really credit artists, because before I was one of those guys who was looking exclusively at the writers, because I grew up in this age of writers build first and artists come second, which is mind-boggling to me, because comics, visual media, right, as important as the writers. But yeah, being very conscious of a artist, I've noticed a lot of talent out there, so it's hard to just pick one person. But I'd say the book that left the hardest visual impression on me this year had to be Gabriel Walter Hernandez's Sentient. So I'm gonna say like Gabriel Hernandez Walter. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, he's my artist of the year. He's just
It was great.
yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, like he's been on my radar for a long time actually, since he did Vision with Tom King, I think like 2 or 3 years ago. He's an amazing science fiction artist. Just everything about the atmosphere that he provides for these like these types of I don't want to say like strictly science fiction, because I know he can branch out and do other things, but he just had such an atmosphere to these narratives. And he really does make a case for comics being the best medium there is, because you can't get what he provides on film or video games or whatever. You just can't. So yeah, I'm gonna say Gabriel Walter. Yeah,
It's painterly. I think it's very rich, his art.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I love it. That's good. Look, see, we got a nice spread of like, all sorts of comics here. It's so awesome. I love it. Actually, Johnny just reminded me, one of the things we're going to do during this, or we're supposed to do that, and I said I flubbed it, is show trailers for stuff that came out this year that people were really excited about. So here's a trailer for Spy Family from Viz Media, and when we come back, we'll do Writers of the Year. All right? All right, that was Spy Family from Viz Media. Like, starts off a little serious, but then of course it's a quirky comedy, and that is available now at your local comic shop. And I actually have an upcoming interview with the editor, the American editor for Spy Family, and she's gonna just give us some insight into the development of that book for the American audience, and actually, and somewhat some of the details on how it ended up coming from Japan to Viz. So definitely check that out. That'll be dropping the week of this video. So there you go. All right, guys, Writer of the Year. All right, so Joaquin, you talked a little bit. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to do Joaquin. I'm going to do the writer hater, Eli.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Eli on this one. Eli, who is your Writer of the Year? I hope it pains you to do this.
You know what? While I did make that stand, man, I love when, and okay, now this guy is a writer artist.
Okay.
But I chose Ginseng Roots. I chose Ginseng Roots' Craig Thompson. Now, like, this book is autobiographical. I love these autobiographical books. These are the kind of comics that I write. About your life, and he digs super deep into his life, like farming ginseng when he was growing up. It's him and his brother in this book. It's so good. I got issue 6 here, and just the personality he gives. He's got these little talking ginsengs too. Honestly, I didn't even know they harvested ginseng in the U.S., but apparently it's like a huge thing where he's from. He was like a child in there harvesting with his family on the family's farm, and it talks about his life, and it's so engrossing you into his life. I've super enjoyed it, and it's not one of the books where I was like, I know this dude, I'm going to pick up his next book. It was one of those books that the dude at the comic book store was like, I think you'll like this. You ought to check this out, judging from your other stuff. And I loved it. I love the size. I love the paper. I love the like red and white art style, black, white, and red. Like I love, and it's just a very personal story, very real, and just engrossing. Great writing, great art, and Craig Thompson.
All right, Craig Thompson. Okay, all right. No, I like that. That's really cool, actually. Craig Thompson, same guy did Blankets, right? Am I getting that right?
Blankets, yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, cool. All right, so then I'll check that out because I actually like Blankets. So there you go.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Ashton, who is your Writer of the Year?
Okay, so I'm actually going with 2 because they work together. I'm going with Scott Snyder and Charles Soule, specifically because I want to talk about Undiscovered Country. I'll
Yeah.
find a way to work it into any conversation. I love this book. It continues to blow my mind with the things that they've managed to come up with and the places in America. I mean, we've only been into 2 of them so far with the Destiny Zone and the Unity Zone, but they're so, I don't even know, crazy and larger than life. And they managed to build these worlds that, in being just a setting, get you to think about your humanity and the way you interact with other people and the way you interact with the environment and technology and all of those things. And it's a really layered experience, the way it's written, from the settings all the way down to like each of these people in the group that represent, you know, again, certain parts of society that are important: journalism, anthropology, military, all of these different aspects. So I just think it's really well-rounded, and everything is done with such great intention that you could pick it apart forever and still miss some of what they're trying to say.
Okay, awesome. All right. Now I know you're a big fan of Undiscovered Country, and like at this point, I think like it's pretty safe to say, like, yes, if you haven't read it by now, Ashton cannot recommend it enough. Like every month it comes out, she's there. And I think you were chomping at the bits when there was a pause in distribution and you couldn't get an issue.
Oh my God, there was the pause in distribution. I never got number 5, and I still don't have it. So I have like a chunk missing in the story, and I'm not thrilled about it. Let me
Oh,
tell you.
jeez. Oh, man. Like, yeah, it's like, what is the point of working a diamond if you can't get a comic that you love? Anyway, Jillian, who is your writer of the year?
Talk about it pains me. Okay, it pains me to pick a white man, and I'm sorry to everyone. It's Jeff Lemire, but I can't lie to myself. I love pretty much everything he's written. Black Hammer, that entire universe, it's spinning out into it goes to the past, it goes to the future, it focuses on certain characters, and every time a new one comes out, I think surely this one will be a dub. Surely I can skip it. Surely he's burned himself out, and it's always good. It's always good. This year saw the return of Sweet Tooth, one of my ultimate all-time favorite comics. I'm very excited for that. Like Royal City, like there's like so much writing about just like the human condition and all of the ways that humans are broken and put themselves back together, and taking just metaphors about like the human condition and placing those in superheroes. I think he's just very deft at telling those like very human stories through the kind of like fantastical lenses of like what if Billy Batson was like trapped in his like kid body forever, like like what if you just dissociated out of your body like constantly all the time. Those are realities for some of us sometimes. I'm sure we all felt a little bit like that 2020. I just think that he's just like so prolific and just so on point every single time. Like Sentient, as we mentioned earlier, like that was just like a great straightforward like sci-fi story, and just like self-contained. He can write the long like sprawling universes like Black Hammer, or in Descender into Ascender, or he can just give you like a little bit Frog Catchers, like you can read that sitting and like end up in tears. I really like the comics that make you feel like difficult emotions. Sometimes that's the only way we can we can access those parts of ourselves is through this like art and storytelling. So I really value that. I think he does a great job, and he better remain unproblematic, or I will comfort him in his sweet Canadian home. Like
that's all right, Jeff Lemire. Be on your P's and Q's. Jillian's watching. Do not disappoint her, sir. And you made it through 2020, so you know what? You're probably in good standing at this point. So don't screw it up now. I feel Jillian means that. I really do. Joaquin, who is your writer of the year?
Writer of the year. I'm gonna have to go ahead and give this one to Matt Fraction.
Okay.
But Matt Fraction's, that feels like a cheat. He's my writer of the year all the time. Something about it. He has a weird God-given gift to just make me fall in love with characters that I either never liked or didn't really care about.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, like exactly. Hawkeye, Iron Fist, Iron Man. Like, yeah, and this time around it was Jimmy Olsen. It's funny. I hate Jimmy Olsen. Like, I think I might get some heat, but I hate Jimmy Olsen. I think he's a dumb character. I think
He's a wiener. It's fun.
right. Well, he's been like, I don't know, superfluous since like 1986, but whatever. But somehow, some way, this crazy guy just made me fall in love with his character, and yeah, just he's funny, and but like he's not just funny. It's like he gets comedy in the sense that like it's funny but tragic and sad. And that's kind of, I don't know, I suppose I can say that for every not Jeff Lemire, for every Matt Fraction comic, it's equal parts hilarious and depressing. Like again, Sex Criminals also was a book that just wrapped up this year. Equal parts hilarious and depressing, relatable in all the ways that like people with shame would like never admit to. But yeah, that book's great. Jimmy Olsen's great. Matt Fraction's just an amazing writer, and that's why he's my writer of the year this year. Just like last year and the year before that. But yeah.
No, cool. No, I also read Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, and absolutely loved it. Like, it's just so much fun. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. My pick this year actually is a fairly recent one. I've been leaning pretty heavily on I'd probably say for like the last 2 or 3 years, leaning pretty heavily on writers that I was already comfortable and familiar with. And I actually gave a chance to somebody that I normally would like. If I had known that this person came from television and movies, I would have balked. I probably would have side-eyed every single issue and never read it. But Christopher Cantwell on Doctor Doom and Iron Man, he's solid. And I hope he's building a corner of the Marvel Universe between his Doctor Doom run and his Iron Man run, because I just want to see him play in this little sandbox that he's slowly creating. I picked up his Doctor Doom solely because I love Doctor Doom. I love his megalomania. I find it absolutely hilarious, and it makes for entertaining dialogue, and that's not lost on Cantwell. What it ended up getting was like this fun cat and mouse hot pursuit adventure where Doom is actually the victim of a coup, and he's always on his heels throughout, which is not something he's used to doing, but Doom doesn't really like back down from opposition. So it's very much in his character to fight this to the end. And in the process, he ends up fighting Blue Marvel. He ends up fighting Mephisto. He ends up fighting Taskmaster. And also, it's nice. There's no Reed Richards in it, at least so far. I need to play a little bit of catch up, but there's no Reed Richards in this book so far. And that's kind of refreshing because, I know a lot of people will lean on his relationship with Reed, which is fine. But it's nice to see him just kind of like deal with his own drama, especially political Latverian drama, and Semkaria and all that stuff. And it's weird. I think I'm going to start watching Halt and Catch Fire, which is Christopher Cantwell's show, because of his comic book work, which is probably the exact opposite of what was intended. But that's usually my gateway. I am going to cheat though. I'm going to cheat a little bit and mention one more person. And that's going to be Peter David. I've been a fan of Peter David since the 90s, since his Incredible Hulk, and he's been making a lot of nostalgia porn lately. And look, I know we make fun of nerds for eating member berries, right? Like, that's a thing, but I am thoroughly enjoying Maestro and Symbiote Spider-Man, and that's despite the Greg Land art, which normally bugs me to no end. And I'm just thoroughly impressed that Peter David just hasn't missed a step, especially for someone who's been writing comics since the 80s. And it's not even that his stuff is consistently, he doesn't lean on the same tropes of he doesn't have the same writing style. His writing style kind of has evolved over the years, but it's still Peter David, which is really nice. So yeah, that's my little cheat there. Is I just want to give a little hat tip to Peter David. We mentioned Donny Cates twice during the show already, and we're going to give them some more love. So this makes 3. Crossover was a book that came out this year, and I was hoping that it would be a love letter to comics, and it definitely is. So we're going to show you guys a trailer for that, and when we come back, we'll do Breakout Comic of the Year. How about that? All right, and that was Crossover. That's available from Image Comics right now. I think the second issue has dropped or is about to drop. I cannot remember. I'm a little bit behind, but yeah, it's interesting. It's fun. Like I'm always about, when creators are able to just kind of like bleed all over the page about their love of comics. I always think that's kind of neat, because then you have that moment where like, oh, okay, they feel the same way I feel about this. You know what I mean? And I think that's been proven in so much of Donny Cates' work. Like from Thanos Wins and Cosmic Ghost Rider, like, I got that impression reading that stuff like, oh, this guy is a 90s kid like me. Like, he grew up on all the dumb stuff and he still loves it. And like, I'm in the same boat as he is. So whatever. All right. Breakout Comic of the Year. Not Best Comic of the Year, but Breakout Comic of the Year. And Joaquin, since you're closest to me, you're going to go first. What is your Breakout Comic of the Year?
Breakout Comic of the Year. All right. So this might be cheating since this comic started actually 2 years ago, but I really think the book picked up steam in the sense that it really kind of started making its thesis a little more clearly this year, and that is Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley's Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
This comic is magical in the sense that it is kind of getting to the heart of everything that people who love Spider-Man love about Spider-Man. And not to drag anybody, let's be honest, the last like couple years, a lot of Spider-Man fans have dropped off the book because they felt that the direction that character was going in was not really what a lot of Spider-Man fans wanted. Especially with like One More Day and Brand New Day and all that stuff. But this book, crazily enough, it's both honoring the past like 10, 15 years of Spider-Man, but also saying that we can honor the stuff that came before it and move forward with something new and different and something that everyone can enjoy and love about the character. And this book's just been great. And I think the past like couple issues, especially the past like arc, not Sins Past, Sins Remembered, something like that. They've really just kind of gotten to the heart of what I love about the character of Spider-Man, and that's why it's my my Breakout Comic of the Year.
All right, cool. I'm a sucker for Spider-Man stories, like especially if they're fun and just like human. Oddly enough, like I get kind of weirdly emotional about that. So yeah, I'm with you. I need to read Spencer's book because absolutely. Eli, what about you? What is your Breakout Comic of the Year?
Breakout Comic of the Year, gotta be Wizard the Comics Magazine by Cosmic Lion Production Presents. Yes, I did compile this book, but it helped me as a producer. Now, I did officially submit Decorum as the book of the year because it blew my mind in so many delicious ways. It was so good. But I mean, if my horn is eligible to be tooted, I think that I will do so in saying that I'm just super proud of what this book has done for all the people inside of it, for the Cartoonist Kayfabe crew, for myself as a fledgling comics producer and publisher.
All right.
And if any stores out there are looking to get any, only about 20 left. Hit me up.
Here first, I have my copy sitting over my shoulder. I don't know if you guys can see over there, but
yes.
Yeah, it's definitely shelved right between my copies of Heavy Metal 300. So
Oh, word. Great company, man.
there you go. Right, exactly. Jillian, what about you? What is your breakout comic of the year?
I think I'm technically cheating as well because it came out in 2019, I believe. I said something is killing the children.
Mm-hmm.
And I say Breakout for this year just because I feel like it flew under the radar for a little while. You know, I read it first and I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's solid. It's creepy. Like it's got some good horror. Like the lead has like I don't know, kind of a good like style to
Yeah.
her. But just in the last year, people have been picking it up more. I can. It's easy to like just like kind of hand sell to people just by like putting it in their hands. And to say nothing of the speculation that comes with when a book like that picks up some steam and people want to go and get like, you know, like the first print of the first issue, and people are picking up like subsequent prints just because the art's cool or whatever happens when you flip a book. But yeah, I just think it's very solid, and I think it's got like kind of a wide readership. It's just like a solid comic to read issue to issue. It's very satisfying in that way, and I'm looking forward to like where it's going.
All right. Yeah. No, shout out to Something That's Killing the Children. And, you know, I mean, look, it's fine. It started in 2019, but if it's
Yeah.
something to pick up steam this year, then that's
Yeah.
fair game, especially for these longer running series. And it sounds like we might be talking about it next year too. What was that, Joaquin?
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that, Jillian. I just got that the first volume like a couple hours ago. So yeah, the recommendation.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100%. I think it was the character Erica Slaughter.
Yeah,
I think is her name.
yeah.
Like the design of her is just like fantastic. Like
I got the gator, like the mask.
oh yeah,
and just because it's cool. You look cool. You feel tough. I need that. I need that.
There
these
you go.
days.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that. That's a great like quarantine mask. Like it didn't even occur to me until just now. That's
I
brilliant.
gotta wear a mask underneath of it because it's not as much protection as I require generally.
Right. Okay.
But it's like a good second layer, and it looks super cool.
All right. I love it. I'm with it. That's actually great. They should start making just masks for that image. Get on that. I'm sorry. Boom. Get on that. So another book that dropped this year that doesn't even need any preamble, right? It's Neil Gaiman and P. Craig Russell, and it's called Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology, and it's from Dark Horse. And like, look, Neil's got his base, and when you team up with P. Craig Russell, that's fantasy nerd heaven. So check out this trailer for Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology.
Before the beginning, there was nothing. No earth, no heavens, no stars, no sky. Only the mist world, formless and shapeless. And the fire world, always burning. In Jotunheim, the home of the giants, is Mimir's well. Mimir, the wise one, the guardian of memory, knows many things. His well is wisdom. The ash tree grows between the 9 worlds and joins them each to each. The dragon Midhogg lives in these waters, and it is always gnawing at the root from below. At the edge of the flame stood Sota. He will go forth from Muspel with his flaming sword and burn the world with fire, and one by one the gods will fall before him.
All right, actually, you know what? I forgot to do my breakout comic. So first of all, that was Norse Mythology from Dark Horse. It's P. Craig Russell and Neil Gaiman. Also, Mike Mignola does some work in there, and so does Jerry Ordway. So definitely check that out. That's available at your local comic shop right now. My breakout comic is actually Octobriana. from Jim Rugg. And we actually had Jim Rugg on our show Comic Talk, and he gave us a nice little rundown about what this book is and why it exists. And it's cool. I mean, first of all, it's got a black light feature, which is just awesome. Like every single page, like if you have a black light for whatever reason, they like the pages definitely do a glow when you're reading, which is also pretty awesome. And also the character's just cool. I mean, this is an absurd thing that he's done, right? And the concept itself is kind of absurd. But the cool thing about the Octobriana story is it's steeped in some sort of reality. The character is actually created specifically as a sort of anti-authoritarian propaganda during the in Russia back in the late 60s. And so what basically Jim Rugg has done is he's taken that and is just trying to, I'll actually say, kind of continue the story of Octobriana and also introduce her to a new generation, because that stuff like that gets lost all the time. So definitely check that out. It's really cool. And it's a piece of European comic history, which is also kind of interesting. So not only is it just a fun, cool read, but get a little bit of a history on top of that. So definitely check that out. Okay. Next one, news story of the year, right? I'm expecting this to get a little precarious. We're going to see where we're going to go with this. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm coming in hot. So, so let's see here. Jillian, I'm going to let you go first. What is your news story of the year?
Oh, well, it could have been DC, but that's mostly just been a huge pain in my ass. And it could have been Warren Ellis is a creep. That's news to nobody. And I think that most of us have, we didn't stop selling Transmet, did we? Okay. But I was gonna say this happened early in 2020. It happened on Twitter, and it was creators talking about pay scale disparity and labor compensation in the comics industry. And that's a big story to me because I think for the first time, or just there's been an uptick of people actually communicating publicly about how they get paid, how much work they do, how do you need an agent? How do you get an agent? How do you actually thrive as a human person in the comics industry when you're a creator? And one thing I've done at my shop, we just ask our local creators. It's how can we best help you? How do we how do we promote your work? What can we do for you? And that's really all we can do. We order the books, we can do the signings, we can promote them on social media, we place them in the hands of readers. But by that point, those books are already paid for. We bought them. They're ours now. The way that comic artists and writers and colorists and inkers how to get paid, I don't think is a there's no union. It's not standard across the board across publishers, and some people are getting taken advantage of, I would say, and they have control over the creative work that they do once it's in the hands of other publishers. I don't know, it was a big light bulb for me of something that I had really invested much time just finding out about as a retailer.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely some archaic aspects to how creators are treated in comics. So, and I'm actually with you. I think that was it Kelly Sue DeConnick who started that? I remember seeing a thread on Twitter that she started posting about agents at some point in time. I can't remember where it started.
Yeah, somebody put a breakdown about page rates, and which was very telling. And this was at the beginning of 2020. I was just sort of into Twitter on a regular basis, and it was just a lot. I really value it. Anybody put themselves out there and said I got a bad deal on this, on this gig I did, or this wasn't working for me. I can't survive this way. This is what this is how much work goes into a book or a page, and this is how much I'm getting paid for it. It was the first time I'd seen actual real numbers before.
Yeah, same here.
You never see them.
No, right. Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Like, it's actually funny you bring that up. Like, yeah, I think that was an eye-opening experience for me this year as well. So, yeah, 100% with you on that. Joaquin, what you got? What's the news story of the year for you?
New story of the year for me. All right, I'm gonna straight up go into it. The DC thing,
Mm,
where DC Comics left Diamond Distribution. That was kind of a big thing. Not just the beginning of the year, but like it's still kind of ongoing. And how that's kind of affected comic shops and how that's affecting the retail. Not retail market, like how it's affecting like the way like books are being put out. I actually saw a couple days ago that there was a mix-up with certain stores where they didn't know when certain DC comics were supposed to be released because Tom King's Bat Cat issue #1 that got like leaked early.
oh, really?
Some stores didn't know like if it was going to come out that week or the next week. So it's crazy. It's weird. I know a lot of people are, kind of running around thinking this is like, the signals the death of this or the death of that, or, as someone who works at a comic book store, I don't think it's that big, especially if you kind of go back in time. This isn't really new. Comic
it's not.
every comic book publisher kind of had their own distribution service like for a long time up until we started getting the direct market more in line with what it is today. But it's weird. We're seeing a weird. We're seeing the comic book industry shake up in a dramatic way, but I don't think all shakeups are necessarily bad. And in fact, I don't think a lot of shakeups that we've seen, not just with DC, but with comics in general, is bad necessarily. In fact, I think we're kind of seeing a return to the pre-Wortham trial days, which is interesting. But like we're seeing that return in like a modern context, which is, I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm interested to see how that turns out.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and interesting. I think a lot of people are. A lot of people on the edge of their seats, but yeah, I think comics can survive a lot of stuff, so I think we'll be okay. Ashton, what's that? Say it again.
We survived book burnings. Come on, we're good.
Oh boy.
Ashton, what is your news story of the year?
So my new story of the year is kind of, you can spread it across any number of shops. It's all of the really creative ways that local comic shops came up with to kind of work around the various COVID restrictions and disruptions and finding new ways to, stay active in their communities and stay engaged with their customers and doing all of those things in safe ways. So the ways that they were able to do curbside pickup or delivery or mail order options and all of the ways that they kind of kept this alive, because we really always talk about like comics being a community. So it's like, what do you do when your community gets shut down? So I thought this was really a lot of heads up thinking and a lot of love for this whole thing and for the community and for the medium and for the fans. So I thought that was probably the most impactful thing I saw all year.
Absolutely. No. And actually, like, I know Jillian, like you guys were doing some interesting things, like at the height of this, and you managed to stay open because of it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we did. We never like fully closed, even if we couldn't have like customers in the building. We were doing curbside and delivery. The point was we already had this is eBay. I'm sitting in eBay right now, so we like have mail order as a system that's already in place, and like we have social media that's already in place. That really helped us like get through just like having those like lifelines, just like the just like spreading it around, like the diversification of how you get your product and how you get your product to other people. I'm tired, basically. It's been a long year.
That is completely and totally fair. I think we all are a little beat by 2020. Eli, what was your news story of the year?
Man, I didn't have a big one because those are all like, I think those are some of the bigger news stories of the year, if not the biggest news stories for sure. I was just super psyched. And I think this is a story that we broke on the Grendel podcast. And that's that Matt Wagner's got a new Grendel story coming out after the one that's coming out. It's simple. It's easy. It's just like it's just great to hear. I'm one of those dumb people that likes to focus on the positive all the time. So
Yeah, I love it.
I just wanted to feature a positive, Matt Wagner. I love him. He's one of my favorites. And so he's got something new coming out after Devil's Odyssey, and I'm just super psyched to see what it is.
All right, cool. No, I mean, look, and that's proof right there. Comics will move forward. Like that is just a definite. They always will. All right, I said it came in hot. I don't know. Like look. So,
oh boy,
I'm a Jay Lee fan. All right, and I've been a Jay Lee fan for a very long time, and the Tom King situation is like everything I hate about modern comics, and it's mostly because
messy.
it's messy. Thank you, Jillian. It is. It's a definition of messy, and like Eli, like I prefer often to think about the positives because I've said this before in our show. Comics are my happy space. Like if I can't be happy here, then I would be a very grumpy man, and I'd just be a bitter human being. I think like this is one of the places I go to be happy with just like some solitude, some peace of mind. And I'm not a fan of comics Twitter all the time. I've been fortunate enough in the last year to find pockets that really actually talk about comics. But a lot of times you'll find a lot of people trying to weaponize the platform and instead of actually talking about comics and especially the creators, which is really disconcerting. And, look, I mean, I could talk about witch hunts and mob mentality and all this other stuff. Tom King didn't invent that. I'm not laying this completely at his feet. But in this instance, he contributed to it. And I won't even delve into, I won't delve into some of the racial aspects too, because that kind of bugs me a little bit. But after 2020, after this year, I'm tired of it, guys. I'm tired of hearing about the boogeyman, right? Look, Comicsgate. I'm tired of hearing about that. I'm tired about hearing the anti side, the pro side. I don't care about that. It's like, it's only because I feel like after a while, it's only important because you make it important. And like, I kind of had this attitude of like, and I saw people saying that like Jay Lee should have known better and all this other stuff. And it's like this stupid feud is a microcosm inside an already small industry. And after a while, you're making it important because you need it to be. And I had to get that off my chest. I think that's I'm just kind of over it. And I don't want to give it any more air, and I probably will never talk about it again. So there you go.
That Comicsgate hasn't like led to some really like heinous shit being done to people, like doxing and whatever. But ultimately, they're nothing. They're nothing. I don't think about them most of my day.
Right, exactly. Like they aren't. Like, and I say that like the pro, the anti, like, yeah, you guys are just feeding off each other, and I can't deal with it anymore. I'm so over it. Like, and I was barely dealing with it as is. So
that was just messy men on the internet, though.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Jay Lee and Tom King, like messy men on the internet. Just learn to stop typing.
I love it. I love it.
You don't have to say something all the time.
Not all the time. No, you don't. I love Jillian's. What's that? I'm sorry. What did you say, Joaquin?
I was just gonna say, like 2021, we should just get rid of Twitter. Just nothing good comes from Twitter.
Just nuke it from space at this point. Yeah. Like, why not? All right, let's transition to comic of the year. I think we're getting a little short in time, so I'll skip the trailer this time. But instead, I'm going to go around the circle. And actually, I'm going to do mine first, just because I feel like you guys are going to end strong. So I'm going to go with my pick of the year, which is actually sitting next to me, as well as a bunch of other comics. Because like Eli, I have I reviewed everything before I went. Look at this nonsense. I reviewed everything before we did this show, because I was like, how did I really feel about that? But my pick of the year is actually Big Black Stand at Attica. And this is interesting because I love historical comics. And I've joked before that I have learned more from historical comics than I did in school, which is unfortunate in a lot of ways, but also true. And I, like I remember reading the 9/11 Commission report in comic book form. Like I would have never read that any other way, but I did. You know what I mean? And that's a chunk of history that I think is interesting. And comics have this ability to teach kids and adults history in digestible ways. And this book in particular is from one of the makers of another book I love, which is the Muhammad Ali graphic novel. It's a French creator by the name of, I'm probably going to butcher this, Amazion. I think it's Amazion. But he's been doing some historical work that's been getting pushed over here to the States. And I appreciate that it's not a dramatization. I typically hate biopics, so I don't really like dramatizations of real life events. I'd much rather like watch a documentary or something like that, or read a comic about it. So it's not a dramatization, which I appreciate, but it's a blow by blow account of what happened. And it comes from the perspective of Big Black, who was like a former military man who fell in with the wrong people and ended up serving like an absurd amount of time. And here's the big thing. The big takeaway for me is like, there's this chunk of history and Black history, I will point out, that it was completely and totally missing from like just eluded me. And like, I grew up with Attica as a punchline, like legit. I went my whole adult life not understanding that it wasn't a prison riot, that it was a stand against injustice. And so whenever you saw people in like movies or TV shows, they were just banging prison bars, saying Attica for a laugh on the sitcom. But this book explains that no, it was about the connection to the Rockefellers, Richard Nixon's involvement, how the media lied about it as it was happening. And it's the definition of a powder keg. And here I am decades later finding myself outraged by it. So I think that the comic book was more than effective in its goal. And I actually also think, to my point earlier about King and Lee, I think on some level, it's a prime example of the toxicity that overtakes everything, especially when we stop being humane or giving things a second thought. Comics are a platform like any other form of entertainment. And if you use it as such, and you know how to use it, you get something great. And so, yeah, Big Black, stand at Attica. That's my pick for comic of the year. But what about you, Jillian? What is your pick for comic of the year?
Well, I gave Johnny a title, and I think I want to change my answer. Originally, I was going to say Sports is Hell by Ben Passmore. That was put out by Koyama Press. Ben Passmore is one of my very favorite creators. I think I want to say the Nib anthology as comic of the year. It's done a lot of work this year. And Passmore has been a contributor as well to take like very like short and digestible like bits of history around I don't know, surveillance scams, the pandemic even. They get a lot of like really top-notch creators to deliver on like journalism comics and like history comics with a theme. They've done just a really good job here, and I got a lot of it, especially when I needed to take that break from like doom scrolling Twitter. Still feel like I'm getting informed somehow. Somebody's already like done this work. It checks out. So I'm gonna say the Nib.
Okay, awesome. I love that. Like, cool. Now I totally understand. Like, you want to be informed, but you don't want to be on the endless doom scroll on Twitter.
Yeah.
Easy to do in 20. It was way too easy to do in 2020, especially around the height of the Black Lives Matter stuff, which is actually how I ended up reading Big Black Stand at Attica, which is because I just wanted to be informed and I wanted to learn some history, but didn't want to get it from Twitter. Probably wise. What about you, Joaquin? What is your pick for comic of the year?
Comic of the year. All right. I'm gonna cheat and say two, but they're kind of like thematically like linked. I'm gonna say Vampirella and Venom. Vampirella by Christopher Priest, and God, I feel terrible. The artist name eludes me at the moment.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
That book and Venom by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. these are two books that come from genres that I kind of viewed as like trashy. I know that's probably bad to say. You know,
It's pulpy.
Yeah, they were like, you know, the 90s like TNA hyper gore, you know, just violent for the sake of being violent, you know, boobs and butts for the sake of, you know, having boobs and butts. Nothing wrong with that, but you know, just it was just cheesecakey and kind of, I don't know, brain dead. Not to say that all comics have to be like, you know, works of literature, but it was just, I didn't expect to feel when reading those two books.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, like if you haven't like read the current Vampirella book, it's really interesting. It's about like at its core, it's about this girl who is, and I say girl, not woman, because Vampirella is like, you know, she's 8,000 or whatever, how many years old, but she is treated like a child, and she acts like a child, and she's a child who's rebelling against her mother, who is a terrible person, but also loves her in a weird way. It's interesting. It's weird. It's about motherhood and parenthood and the way children interact with their parents and rebel against their parents. But it's done on this scale of gods and monsters, and like us humans, the little people, we're just kind of trapped in the mix. That book's really fascinating. And also Venom by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Very similar thing. Venom's a character that I grew up with in the early 2000s and late 90s. He was everywhere. He was just the dude who was like, I'm gonna eat your brains. But you know, yeah, I play that PS1 game a lot. But yeah, no, he was just like the like, you know, the trashy like symbiote, kill things, rip your body out, and you know, eat your whatever. But like this recent run by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, it's really been about this guy just kind of getting back on the horse after like 30 years of being like a trashy human being. It's about the redemption of Eddie Brock and how Eddie is trying to be the best man that he could possibly be, but also the best father that he could possibly be. Spoiler alert if you haven't been reading the Venom book. But you should be reading the Venom book, so, you know, take your spoilers and, you know, whatever. But yeah, it's a great story. And I like how these two just kind of like Michael Bay-esque, like just fun, dumb action comics were kind of, I don't know, tweaked to be something different.
Okay.
Really surprising. Right. So yeah, those are my two comics of the year.
All right. And actually, I didn't want to slight the artist. It's Ergun Gundiz.
Yeah.
Which is not easy to say, and I probably butchered it, but my bad, Ergun. But yes, shout out to the crew at Vampirella. Ashton, I'm gonna save you last for Eli. You and your little kitty too.
I'm about to say someone
also. Oh my God!
Cat. Like
cat alert! Cat alert! Cat alert! Alert!
He's part of my creative team, so he's part of it.
All right, all right. Hopefully, do you have a union? He's got a cat union. I hope so.
I do. I have to.
If not, Jillian.
Keep it all.
Ashton, what is your pick for comic book of the year?
My pick is Heartstopper. Kind of a cheat, volume 1 and 2, but just because they go together. I love this so much. I stumbled upon it on the PREVIEWSworld new releases page, and I completely fell in love with this and the two main characters, Nick and Charlie. It's a coming-of-age, slice of life, coming out, LGBTQ plus story, and it does a really fantastic job of exploring being out and being proud of who you are, but still coming in contact with that homophobia and how those things mingle and how you overcome them. Can you overcome them? Can you do it by yourself? And Alice Oseman does a really great job of striking that balance and telling a story that is emotionally impactful without crossing into a place that feels dangerous or unsettling. And there's some hard to swallow scenes in there. I'll be honest. Like there's some scenes that have like a deal with like consent and not giving consent and all of the things that surround that. And it is hard to swallow. And I think she does a really good job of exploring this and building on it, and starting with Charlie, who's already out as gay, and then building from there when Nick explores his sexuality and how he would identify and the roadblocks he comes up against with his family, his own friends, and just like society in general. It's set in England. Alice Oseman is English, so it's slightly different maybe than and how it would be in the US. And there's also a lot of like references to like school things that I'm like, what is this? But it's very sweet. It's really well done. We had her on for an interview, for a Comic Talk interview a while back, and she really got in the weeds about why she made the decisions she did here and why they were important. So if you have time to go watch that, I would recommend it as well.
All right, Eli, what about you? What is your comic of the year?
Comic of the year is Canker by Matthew Allison. The amazing, insane, super cool science fiction, wild hero, talking chest, psychedelic, wild space, insanely detailed. Just it's so hard to describe the creativity that's like in this book. Honestly, like it's one of those things that like after I read it one sitting, ripped through this bad boy, and I was like, felt like you feel like you're in a little bit of a distant world. Like you feel the transformation that goes on in this book. You feel it in yourself, and you feel you're like traveling all the way out into this insane Canker Matthew Allison world. I really say y'all should pick this one up. It's just a wild, psychedelic, everything that a creator-owned book needs to be. Love it.
All right.
Canker.
Awesome. There you go. I was like, I was going to save Eli for last because I was like, I know he's going to finish strong. Guys, thank you very much for joining me, and I appreciate it. Like, this has been really cool. I think we've got a nice spread of stuff. Like we've hit all a little bit of everything, and it's also really cool to find out that everybody here has diverse taste. Like within their own like selections, there's a lot of like range, which was also really cool. So real quick, let's do some last shout outs, and I'm gonna start with you, Jillian. What is your shout out? Shout out your store, shout out anything you guys are doing, anything you want to shout out.
I'm going to shout out Kamikaze, and we're in Somerville, Massachusetts, 407 Highland Ave. Find us on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to see me coordinate my outfit to new releases and post those, I do that all the time. And yeah, just follow us, please. I need the likes, the burst of serotonin. It's so necessary. It's messed up.
I love it. Absolutely. Who else we got here? Joaquin, where can they find Mystical Green Beanie?
You can find the Mystical Green Beanie first at your local comic shop in Maryland, Silver Spring, at 8317 Fenton Street, Alliance Comics and Games. Check it out. It's great. But you can also find me personally on a more regular basis at Mystical Green Beanie at youtube.com.
All right. Okay. Yeah. God, hearing that address, I used to hear that address so often in the past. Like that's so funny to hear you say it. Let's see. Actually, no. Ashton doesn't go next because Ashton will go last. Eli, where can they find you?
You can find me cosmiclionproductions.com for all the needs. I got links to everything there. My podcasts are all on. Most of them are on Spotify. All the rest are on Apple Podcasts. Cosmic Lion Radio. Can I Thwip It? And The Devil in Detail, the Grendel Reread podcast. Everything's on cosmiclionproductions.com, including where you can get your own wizard.
There you go. All right. And Ashton, where can people find you? What do you want people to know about?
You can find me online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Free Comic Book Day, where we will be yelling until August 14th because that is the new date for Free Comic Book Day. It will not be in May this year. It will be in August 14th at your local comic shop, but still all of the regular things you've come to know and love. Free comics, keep an ear out for that. We'll be announcing those in like the March-ish area. But in the meantime, come yell, give us your opinion on something. We're always screaming into the void.
All right, always screaming into the void. That is That is the theme of 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's
I
up, Dylan?
sold comics to a vaccinated person today, someone who got the COVID vaccine and felt just like the smallest like stirrings of like hope for, getting back to like, I don't know, just something getting better, please.
Yeah,
Just seeing
yeah.
just one person out in the wild, just like, yeah, I got the vaccine, it's fine.
Okay. No, actually, that's a good way to
helps.
kind of close out the year, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That's a good way to close out the year for sure. As for me, I am Troy Jeffrey Allen, and you can catch Ashton and I every week on Previews World Weekly, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I always forget what it is, Central Mountain Time, but you guys can figure it out. It's like an hour off or something. I don't know. But also, I want to point out, hey, this week, the week of New Year's, we're going to be doing a bunch of interviews on PREVIEWSworld.com. We've already started, actually. So I'm going to be doing a best of 2020 interview series all month long, and I'm all week long, and it's going to start with Christopher Cantwell. He's going to talk about Doom. I made the mistake of asking him how his 2020 was. That did not go well, but he talks about his run on Doom and has some fun conversation about that. Also, we're going to talk about a little bit about the TMT Power Ranger series, so I'm going to get to talk to Ryan Perot and a couple other people too. I got some Heavy Metal 300 people coming in to talk about their run, the anniversary issue that they did this year. I'm also have David Jesus Vignoli, who's going to talk about his book New World and more. So definitely check that out on PREVIEWSworld.com if you want some more reading recommendations. And at the end of the week, I'm going to gaze into the future and look into what 2021 has in store and what cool things we can expect. So here's hoping that the clock doesn't reset and we don't go into some Groundhog Day scenario, because that would suck, and that there will be a 2021. But hey, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for rolling with us during this year. It's been a tough one. Hopefully we've provided some escapism, some fun for you guys to just talk about comics. And hey, I appreciate you. I know Ashton appreciates you. And our entire crew here at Previews World appreciates you. So have a safe new year. And we'll catch you guys later. See you at the Spinner Rack.
Don't forget that you can catch Previews World Weekly streaming live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific at Previews World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.